Hi there and welcome along to another workout for you to row along to. It's week 4, session 3 of the 500 meter plan, and it's another bottom tier session. Now in order to try and make this a little bit different, what we're going to do is 6 5-minute intervals with 1 minute rest in between. And we're going to do these at 22 strokes per minute. Now if you're training from a pace point of view, I want you to do all of these at 2k plus 15 seconds pace, okay? If you're doing it from a heart rate cap point of view, then my two suggestions are either to do it for the Maffetone system, which is 180 minus your age. That gives you the heart rate that you don't want to go past. Or you could do it between 65 or 75% of your maximum rowing heart rate. However, I'm going to talk more about this during today's session. For the time being, let's just get into our 4-minute warm-up. So let's set up our machine first. Let's go for drag factor. Make sure and set it to where you want it to be. If you don't know about drag factor, check out the video on the YouTube channel. Next up, go to your monitor and set it at eye height so you don't have to look up and you don't have to look down. And finally, set the foot straps so they cover the bottom lace on your shoe. Or if you're in socks like me, you can bend comfortably forwards at the front without it gamming up your toes. Right, so normal 4-minute warm-up. 18 strokes a minute, nice gentle start in 3, 2, 1, go. I say gentle start and I mean it. I just want you to, for this first minute, just to get moving. Just make the muscles aware that they're about to get asked to do something. But don't start completely from cold and press really hard and then suddenly bind up one of your muscles and tweak something and all that jazz. So although typically 18 strokes a minute would be around about 2k plus 20 pace, if you're down at 24, 25, that's absolutely fine. Just get your heart pumping, get your muscles moving, and I'll worry about the gums flapping, talking away to you. Right, so we're closing in on the end of this first minute, so if you're feeling a little bit more eased into this and you can add a couple of seconds pace, a bit more pressure from the legs, just push out a little bit harder. Concentrate on nice straight arms to let that power flow through, and then think about your back rocking from a 1 o'clock position at the front to an 11 o'clock position at the back. All the time thinking about a good posture, up in your sit bones at the front, the powerful braced posture, ready to accept that power. Right, one more stroke. Let's take a foot out the foot straps and then carry on rowing with that one leg still strapped in. Carry on rowing with a good amount of force. Just because you're one leg down doesn't mean you're taking it easy. Watch you're not over leaning at the front, because although this improves your ability to compress, hang on, one stroke, let's change feet. Yeah, although this improves your compression at the front and your flexibility, what it can lead to is it does give you the ability to completely over lean, which you don't want to do. You want to still keep your back going from 1 o'clock at the front to 11 at the back. Right, one more stroke. Both feet in, nice straight legs, and just row with your back and your arms. Swing over your hips, then pull in your arms, but nice straight legs. You can have a little soft kind of bend in your knees just to make sure you're not locking them out. But I don't want any power to be coming from a leg push. Right, and slide to the front of the machine, straight arms, and just push out with your legs. So the exact opposite. Nice straight arms, push through the legs. And all you're doing is trying to get the timing right at the front of the machine to just pick up the flywheel. So you don't have to push all the way back to the back of the machine, because then you might fly off the back. All right, one more stroke. There you go. So that should get your body just warmed up enough that when we get into today's session, you're not going to be starting from cold. But it's not that tough a session today, which I'll explain while you move up and down the rail and have a quick drink. So today's session then is 6 5-minute intervals with 1 minute rest in between. If you're going to program your monitor for this, I suggest you set the rests to undefined rather than the full 1 minute, and that'll just keep us in sync. If you come back to do this on your own one day and you're not doing it as a row along to this video, then by all means set the 1 minute rests. But just to make sure for this video purposes we stay in sync, set it to undefined. Pace-wise, I want you to do all of these at 22 strokes per minute. And if you prefer working from a 2K based training pace point of view, then do these at 2K plus 15 seconds. If, however, like me, you're trying to do some heart rate cap work, then you have one option, which is the Maffetone option at 180 minus your heart rate, and that gives you the number you don't want to go above, or you can do it between 65 and 75% of your maximum heart rate. Now, what's going to happen from the heart rate point of view is I want you to start at round about 2K plus, say, 15 to 18, and let your heart rate drift up to that maximum point, okay? I don't want you to go out flat out at 2K pace and zoom your heart rate straight up. Even if you don't get there by the end of the first interval, that's fine. But through the process of this entire workout, it's gonna get faster and faster up towards your heart rate cap, at which point you might have to back off the pace. Those that are doing the 2K training pace, just keep it at 2K plus 15 from start to finish, and that will keep this as a bottom tier for you from that point of view. But this heart rate cap thing is slightly different, and so this is why you can back off the pace if your heart rate starts to get too close or past that cap, okay? Right, let's get into this before we get too cool. My waffling has a tendency to go on a bit when I'm over caveating everything, so here we go then. So 22 strokes per minute in 3, 2, 1, go. So I am going to start this at, well, I'm going to aim for 2-minute splits, which is 2K plus 15 for me, and then just see how quickly things start to creep up from my heart rate point of view. 22 is always an awkward stroke rate. I always find it a little bit hard to get bang on instantly, but it eventually comes. So if you're on a 2K based training pace preference, just hold your 2K plus 15, even when I'm talking about, oh, I'm having to back off. Heart rate based training isn't for everyone, either because it can be quite restrictive, or simply because you don't have a heart rate monitor. So that's why there's two good reasons for the 2K based training pace thing. Is you don't need a heart rate monitor for it, and it just gives you training as a kind of percentage of what your body is capable of. Okay, so I'm up at 134, so I'm going to hold my stroke rate but back off the pace a little bit. Down at 2K plus 18 right now, just to try and keep my heart rate where it is. But the reason I'm over talking about this is I actually got asked about it on one of my workouts in the 5K plan, because on the video you can see my heart rate going up to 85% of maximum in a bottom tier workout. And so Will, quite rightly, said, hang on, what's going on here? Surely your heart rate shouldn't be that high for a bottom tier. But because the 5K plan was based on a training pace that you hold rather than a sliding scale in order to keep your heart rate down, it's not quite as comparable. Especially because it was at the end of a half-hour row with power strokes, and basically, from a cardiac drift point of view, it just got harder and harder for my heart to keep at a low rate like it is today. So they're both perfectly good ways to train, a pace-based or going for heart rate zones, but they aren't always interchangeable. That's all I'm saying. So there we go. That's all I'm going to say about that. Got 1 minute to go on this first interval, and then a minute rest. And then in the next interval, I'll start just giving you some primers for technique. I sometimes like to give you false sense of security that maybe I'll talk about something else. Actually, what I like is for you to just get on and row sometimes and not have me instantly talk about technique. To either give you an option to analyse yourself, or so that any bad habits can creep in. Right, one more stroke. There we go. So somehow, how does that work out? I suppose, there we go, 70%. I do sometimes think the rounding up and down on ErgZone's display can be a bit strange, but unless 135 beats per minute is actually 72% of my max, but I think something's got a bit awry. Maybe I've changed my max heart rate or something. Anyway, have a quick drink. Just keep on moving. Just don't let the muscles seize and stop. And then get ready for the next interval. It's a short rest. So if you're on undefined, get ready to press your buttons, maybe now, to continue to the next interval. We're going in 3, 2, 1, go. Same again, 22 strokes a minute. Ah, yes, watch, I am rowing. I'm getting very close to just binning this Apple Watch. As useful as it is for tracking things, I wish it had just shut up. I pressed it 3 or 4 times, like before the warm-up and after the warm-up, when it kept on asking me, are you rowing? And I'm like, shut up. And yet it still comes back. Very needy. Anyway. So, the 1 minute rest is just enough to stop for either training format, the 2K pace or heart rate. It stops it becoming too much and dangerously teetering out of the bottom tier where it's meant to be. So if you were just to do a straight half hour at 2K plus 15, you would be taking it into that kind of mid zone and maybe closer to the top. And we don't want that. It's the same for the heart rate cap. At this slightly higher stroke rate, I don't really like to choke the pace too much. And if we were to do a full half hour at 22 strokes a minute, we'd probably end up having to row at like 2k plus 25 in order to keep the heart rate down, which I don't mind doing at 18 strokes a minute, being that slow, but I do still like having a correlation between stroke rate and pace. I don't really like having to choke your stroke. Speaking of which, let's go through the headlines of your stroke. So, remember, your back, you want to lean forward at the front, and then at the back of the stroke, you only really want to go as far as 11 o'clock. Try not to go too much further past that, but do try and at least get to 11. If you want a backswing to generate some power into the stroke, but then try and get back into that forward lean as quick as possible so that you are in that position as you roll or slide back down the rail. So you're in the right position well before you approach the front of the machine. Want arms straight as you drive back, and only bend them at the back of the stroke to finish. You want to make sure you're pushing out your legs. Remember, the majority of the force of your stroke comes from your leg drive. It's not from you yanking on the handle with your arms. And then the last thing just to say on this interval is about your posture, or at least making sure you're powerful. So I don't want you slumped with a rounded back. I want you up and primed to take each stroke, and also primed at the back of the stroke to accept that finishing power. So sit nice and tall, but not bolt upright, please. Right, 2 more strokes. There you go. Lost my focus a bit there and finished up at 140. So for the Maffetone heart rate thing, I do tend to give myself a buffer of 5 beats. I kind of don't, with 135 maximum, I don't really want to go above 140. So I just hit this. Don't really want to go above 140. If I get past that, I start to get into the kind of the mid zone of your heart rate where you're neither helping develop your low impact kind of engine building stuff, and you're also not developing your top tier stuff. For the 500, that's all we care about. Okay, get ready to press your button to continue to the next interval if you're on undefined rests, because we're going in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So like I said last time, that minute is just there for like occasions like what happened to me, for you to give a chance, for your body to just calm down a little bit. So I finished around about 140, but I was down at 88 by the time we started this interval. So it means that I'm going to keep my heart rate nice and low and hopefully not overstress it. Remember, this is all about engine building, fuel refining, fitness building stuff. It's not about speed. It's not about high-end tolerance or anything. It's just about giving you an engine big and strong and powerful enough to accept that speed when you ask it. Plus, if you did session 2 yesterday, there's always a chance that you woke up with a few aches and pains. Well, wrong phrase. Say muscle soreness. DOMS, delay onset muscle soreness, from the power output from yesterday's session. So a nice low rate, slow, steady row like this is great for just, it's almost like running an iron across some wrinkled clothes. You're just helping to ease off any muscles that are reacting after the power from session 2. Likely to be your legs and maybe your shoulders that are feeling it after session 2. From the power as you push out from the front with your legs, and then your shoulders from hanging on to that power. And what I don't want you to do today, if you do feel any muscle soreness, I don't want you to guard against it. I don't want you to change your technique. Maybe slow down your pace if it's sore, but try to engage your stroke as you normally would, and that will help just flush out and steady out your muscles. I'm back up 140 again. I do also think, and I said before, I'm putting more of a load on my heart because I'm talking away to you the whole time. That's fine. It's nice to have company. I don't have any music playing, so otherwise I'd be just rowing in here on my own. Although I would have music on, so. 1 minute to go. Make sure to keep your pace at 2k plus 15 if that's how you're training. And then also make sure to be sensible about your heart rate. If you're seriously training with this heart rate cap, be serious about it. If you see yourself nudging up, don't let your ego take over. Just ease off. There's still so much value to be had from even rowing at 2k plus, what, 24 I'm at right now. But as long as you keep your stroke and your form right, it's still perfect for you. One more stroke. As long as you're not, like I say, choking on your stroke in order to stay slow. By putting less power in, you're maybe not staying in line with this idea of stroke rate goes up, pace goes up. But as long as you're keeping the right technique, then actually this slowed down, lighter touch to each one can kind of, it takes that pressure and panic off you to be performing at a stroke rate. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm still not entirely sold by the heart rate cap thing, but I mean, I did go faster on my 500 meter test. So anyway, right, so get ready to press your button to continue to the next interval. We're halfway there, we're 3 down, 3 to go. And the next one starts in 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So my heart rate that time, I'd only recovered to 90. So I was about 5 beats higher than the last one, which is pretty much to be expected. Again, you're still going to have a cardiac drift as you go through these intervals, just because no matter how much you try and keep your heart rate capped, you are still doing an increasing amount of duration of work. But it's all just individual approaches. I do prefer that feeling of getting the wind in my fur and going fast. So I think I'd be much happier from an ego point of view doing this at 2k plus 15 than doing it at 2k plus 20. But I also know that when it comes to session 4 tomorrow, I'm going to have a full tank of gas, and it's going to be, it'll have gone through the fuel refinery a few times with really powerful high octane gas because of doing a session like this before it. Whereas if I was doing this at 2k plus 15, I wouldn't be topped up in the fuel tank, and it wouldn't be refined fuel. So from that point of view, this is why I'm quite happy to continue this way, because after all, we're all about putting the power out for the 500 meter test, and if we can't train those fast sessions because we've used up too much energy in these slow sessions, well, what's the point? Right, I'm top of my range again, I'm going to have to back off. It's hard not to back off stroke rate when I do this. So be sure that as you come to the front of the machine, that you're up on your sit bones. Okay? I don't want you to be kind of sitting back and rounded like this. I want you to be up and tall, up on your sit bones. And that helps with all of your body angles at the front, because it's really hard to get that forward lean right if you're tucked under. And in fact, every time I try and demonstrate it, I feel an almighty crack in my lower back. So I'm going to stop trying to demonstrate it. And even when you get to the back of the machine, I don't want you to tuck your butt under, which is quite easy to do. I want you to stay powerful. Obviously you can't be on your sit bones because they're at the front, but you can still be powerful. And the key here is not to tug yourself forward using the foot straps, because that is the biggest culprit for tucking your hips and your butt underneath. If I pull myself forward, I instantly tuck my butt underneath rather than staying up and tall and rocking over my hips like that. And that's one of the most vital, I'd put posture and sit bones and how your hips are is number 2 after making sure you push off with your legs. One more stroke. Mostly because everything else falls into place from that. If you're up in your sit bones, as you come to the front, it's almost natural to have that forward lean. You don't have to think about it. Whereas if you're tucked under, you suddenly have to think, how do I forward lean? I feel like E.T. How's that going to happen? And as we all know, E.T. was not very good at rowing. Or cycling, that's why I had to sit in the basket at the front of the bike. Can't talk about E.T. My wife and I have this running thing about how it doesn't make me cry at all, and she says that I've got no emotions because I don't cry to E.T. Right, get ready to press your button onto the next interval. We're going in 7 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. 110. My heart rate was down to for the recovery there, so this is why this 1 minute rest is there and why it's going to become quicker and quicker that my heart rate will get back up to that cap point. But at least the time it takes to get up to that cap point, I'm still able to. I'm rowing at 2k plus 19 right now, 2k plus 20. So I don't have to be down at ridiculously soft paces in order to keep my heart rate capped. Plus, I suppose, it gives you something else to concentrate on. As long as you don't end up disillusioned by not being able to hold your heart rate, then anything that gives you a focus is a good thing. I mean, 80% of the reason these videos are here are just to give you the focus for something to row along with. That having me whittering on in your ear and trying to get you to think about technique and give you a plan to stick to, it's all just about focus and motivation. And then if you find me even vaguely entertaining, that's why you then come back. Yeah, so 2 minutes in, I've ballooned my heart rate already up to 140. So I've got to back off a little bit. Try not to back off stroke rate. Well, thank you, watch. You may see me without a watch for upcoming rows. But I was thinking of getting the Whoop band as something a bit more directed towards fitness than just the Apple Watch. Christmas is coming up. Could look at getting that. So carry on thinking about your legs. Make sure your slide takes you so that your shins are vertical. It's quite easy to stop short, especially on these lower rate rows, where in order to slow down the stroke, you only kind of lazily go half slide and then push back out again. And I don't want you doing that. I still want you to slide enough forwards so that your shins are pointing to vertical position, and then you're coiled up like a good spring to press out your legs. And if you're unable, if you don't have the flexibility to get up to that vertical position, then do check out the rowing techniques hacks video that I have on this channel, which takes you through a useful way to use a post-it to help you develop that flexibility without actually getting in the way of your stroke. Other methods exist, but quite a lot of them involve your stroke kind of slamming to a halt at the front. I don't like that. So right, coming into a close on this interval. I've lost track. Are we on interval 5? Oh yeah, we are. So just a nice easy grind in your stroke, develop that fitness. 2 more strokes, 1 more. A bit high. Oh, yeah. So control is the key, is the watchword here for the heart rate cap. It's again why it's a lot easier to just row at a pace, because you can just dial in. For me, this would be a 2-minute split. Hold it at 2 minutes and then just go for it. It's much easier than, oh, should I go up or faster or lower? Because I got it slightly wrong on that one. Not doing very well today. I'm not going to get a gold star from teacher today. I'm up in the 70s for all of these intervals. So, bad John. Right, last interval coming up. Get ready to press your button to continue to our last interval, because we're starting in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Which actually is one of the reasons I was considering the Whoop band, because it does heart rate variability, which I think is probably the best method of training for how your body is feeling. So today, I think I'm probably a little bit overactivated, which is why my heart rate is climbing the way it is. So I'm sure if I had a heart rate variability test, it would have said your heart is activated, either take a rest day or make sure and be very careful about what training you're doing. Whereas, because it's session 3 of the plan, it is therefore bottom tier, and one that I still want to try and get to my heart rate cap for. Whereas the HRV test would probably maybe just have gone for a walk instead if it was over activated. But then, I've said before, there's a flip side to that where you feel absolutely raring to go. You want to push a session hard, but then your heart rate variation test says, oh, you should go slow today. And you're like, but I feel I can go fast. And then you start to argue with your watch about who's in control. I'm pretty sure if you stuck to the HRV predictor religiously and only ever did the sessions or the intensity of session it suggests. Much like rowing with this Maffetone heart rate, eventually it would pay off. But I don't think it would be without a level of frustration where you're like, man, I just want to go hard today. We'll see. I think I could do with one less toy in my life rather than getting something else. So it must be said, this watch is annoying me, so might at least stop wearing it for rows. Alright, so we've got a minute and 3/4 left, or just under, of this workout today. It's not been a particularly tough session, I think you'll agree. It's also not been too technique heavy. It's maybe been a bit kind of training protocol heavy in terms of how I've been talking to you, but like I said, sometimes I like to just ease off how intense I am to you about your technique, give you a chance to just think about it by me giving you a few headlines. I don't think I made any lightsaber noises today. The carrot didn't make an appearance. Didn't talk about using a balloon to make sure your arms are straight, which is another one in the technique hacks video. So usually you could drop in on any of my sessions and get quite a substantial chat about technique, but every once in a while I like to bore you with my actual chat instead of rowing chat or technique chat. One more stroke. It's all rowing chat. It's just the techniques sometimes. Oh, okay. So maybe if you're doing that at the 2K plus 15 pace, you might be feeling it right now. There's a good chance it might start to feel a little bit towards what I'd normally class as a mid-tier session, where you've got like a effort level of kind of like 7 or 8 out of 10 instead of 5 or 6, regardless of the fact that my heart rate was drifting up there. That still felt like it went nowhere past a 6. Wouldn't even say it went past a 5 for me, but my heart rate obviously said different. So anyway, so let's get into a 2-minute cool down in 3, 2, 1, go. Right. I've noticed that first stroke I take in the cool down is terrible. I just did it again. I kind of start out and I am in that real slumped position. I sort myself out a couple of strokes in, but when I go back to put these together in the edit suite, I'm like, I do hope nobody stumbles upon that first stroke and thinks that's what I'm describing as the right stroke technique. Remember, I do describe something that's considered the right technique. I'm not saying I do it, especially when I get fatigued. I think I'm okay stroke-wise. I know I've got this over-lean still at the front. Got a tendency to slump my back when I get tired at the back of the stroke, but at least talk a good game. So, session 3, week 4 in the bag. Session 4 is obviously a top tier workout, and this one's going to be more of a full pressure, full lung blasting, full leg blasting workout. So make sure and bring a towel and some water. Only got a week to go after this one. Then I have to decide what to do next, to be honest. So keep an eye out on the website and the Facebook RowAlong page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the bell for notifications. Subscribe to the podcast. Twitter and Instagram, and fill up your life with RowAlong. And at least that way you'll, yeah, I'm done with the cooldown. At least that way you'll know what my plans are next. I might just do some really long rows. I mean, the most popular video on my entire channel is a 60-minute row with alternating stroke rates. It's had like 25,000 hits. Still nowhere near the big alpha guys, but still, it seems to be that the big long ones, or that big long one, is what loads of people watch, and all these shorter ones, not as many. So I may, once we're done with this, and once I'm done with the 500 meters, I might just stick to doing long ones through December. That way we can build up some meters for the holiday challenge together. Now, I think I just sold it to myself on this. This is what we'll do. So we'll do longer rows, and then we can munch through a whole bunch of meters, log them into the RowAlong team on the Concept 2 logbook, and then we'll have a nice big meter total, and individually we'll all be earning money for charity. What better way is there to spend December, eh? Sounds fantastic. So anyway, thanks very much for being part of this session, part of the plan. I really do appreciate you being along. And what should today's hashtag be? Oh crikey, I don't know actually. I think I'm gonna cheat here. Make up your own. Think what you got. What did you get most out of today's session? This is how bad it's getting with me and my hashtags. What did you get most out of today's session? And you're not allowed to say hashtag bored, and leave that just because, yeah, why not? Because it suddenly throws it on to you for a change. Anyway, right, I'm rambling, I'm ranting. I'm gonna go and have a bite to eat and a drink, and then get back and start putting this together so that you can all see it. Have a great day. Be well. Bye bye.